Hello and welcome to the first vacation weekly reflection from the Chaplaincy Centre. I'm Jeremy Clines. I'm part of the chaplaincy team. I'm the coordinating chaplain. And as a Christian priest and minister, I'm speaking to you during Holy Week, which in the Christian religious calendar is the week leading up to Easter. And this Christian calendar comes from the principles established in the Jewish calendar. They don't always precisely align, but the festival of Pesach, that's sometimes called Passover, is a parallel festival that entirely defines the Christian celebrations of Holy Week and Easter. And so our reflection here is for anybody, any perspective, any religion, any belief, and for those who don't have a religion or belief identity, just for all of us to reflect. But I want to tell you about my own circumstances as I talk to us all today in our reflection about the realities of how our lives are so interconnected with the life of our planet itself and all its species. And I think that this has come to our joint attention in many different ways in recent years. Perhaps so specifically as we reflect back on the last 12 to 15 months in relation to the pandemic emergency with the transmission of a novel coronavirus that had been present in other animals, probably in bats for a long time, but its transmission across species to humans is indicative of the pressure that the largest human population ever in the history of the Earth is causing upon the planet itself. And we know this in terms of our global warming and climate emergency. Human-made climate change is another impact of our human actions on our planet and all species. We're also conscious that our action as humans is transforming because, as a recent report said just from yesterday, or maybe it was in the last week, I think it was also in the New Scientist, that we are actually a species that's evolved as nature dwellers, not as urban dwellers, and that urban dwelling seems to have only existed for about the last 6,000 years of 300,000 years of human existence, and that it's only been quite recently that we've arrived at a tipping point where the majority of the human population of the world now live in cities. Even 20 years, 30 years ago, the picture was rather different. So our connection or disconnection from the environment has changed. Our pressure on the environment is increasing and hasn't been resolved, despite a new climate meeting, the COP26 taking place in Glasgow later this year, coming up with more commitments. Although we've heard of progress, like on, for instance, manufacture of electric motor vehicles, we've still got such a long way to go, and we know that we have a responsibility. And into that I see that the suffering of the world, the suffering of all species, and the suffering of humanity itself as well, because so many are impacted by the way that humanity is behaving in relation to the environment and the creation. All this suffering needs some hope and some antidote or recovery. And in the great Jewish festival of Pesach, of Passover, we see evidence of hope in the face of huge suffering and of an imprisoned people, a people who were enslaved, finding their liberation but also finding their freedom from plague, from pestilence, and from disaster. And the Christian hope of Easter is also a sign of new life, of resurrection, of transformation. And it seems after this great struggle in these last 12 to 15 months across the world that we want to draw on the hope that we can see around us, including from different perspectives, from different beliefs, but also from these two great religions of Judaism and of Christianity, that we can maybe find some inspiration for hope for a better world, for better societies, and a better future. We also know that just by tackling one pandemic problem, questions of clean water and sanitation, of health and well-being, of stable and secure home life, good income, and freedom from the risk of infant death, neonatal death, risks in pregnancy, and from preventable diseases will remain after we have got through this specific pandemic emergency. So many are in great need, and we have seen such transformative efforts that have occurred during this pandemic across countries, across continents, to quickly try and alleviate suffering on this single topic. So maybe one specific cause for our hope and for our own action and campaigning is to say, what we can do on this one thing, we can repeat across these many other areas where our human behaviours need to improve for the well-being of our own species, but for all species and for the planet too. So this is my hope. So as I reflect with you, and those of you who have tuned into this message, I hope we can all find ways ahead that honour, cherish, and seek to care for our place in the creation. And I'd encourage all of us to practice treading lightly on the earth, because in that light treading upon the earth, we learn what our connection is as people with planet. Thank you so much for listening, and do listen in. We'll have Mohammed Ismail doing some of these reflections in the next couple of weeks, and I hope to see you again later in April. Thanks for now, and bye-bye.